So, hello everyone, welcome to the next episode of the TechKraft podcast. I am your host Ravi Mandal, and today we are joined by Satya Shrestha, who is multi-cloud solution architect at VMware. Welcome to the show, Satya.
Thank you, Ravi. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
So, how is it going, Dai? So, you've been working in VMware for such a long time, and how is everything going right now?
Yeah, I'm loving my work. I love the culture here. I love my colleagues. I love what VMware does for the community, for its customers, and also for employees, right? So it's a overall really well-rounded company that cares for everything that is around it. Yeah, so I love the culture, like I said, and the company itself is innovative, doing lots of interesting thing in technology space, and I see a really great future with VMware here. So I like what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's great to know. Though. So Satyadai, I've been following you for a very long time, and I used to look at your LinkedIn post and everything. And this was song like you got introduced about yourself, and thank you very much for joining us in the podcast. So today we'll be talking more about a very personal interest to me, that's cloud development and cloud architecture, because I've been working in cloud for a very long time, and this is this topic is something that interests me a lot.
Right.
So but before going into that, I just wanted to cover a little bit about how did you get into VMware, and what was the journey like, because you have worked in other companies as well in the past, and you are currently working at VMware. So what was the journey like to start working as a cloud architect at VMware?
Yeah. So I knew VMware from really long ago, right? Even when I was back in Nepal. Now, right now I'm in Sydney, Australia. Even when I was in Nepal, that was like early 2000, and we used to be amazed to see VMware's product. I think at the time that was a VMware workstation, and running multiple operating system in one computer was like a magic, right? Oh wow, what's going on here, right? That was like a really new space, and I knew VMware from that time. Um, so to get opportunity working with VMware, it's a history company. We all know that the virtualization that came into mainstream because of VMware, and it has so many things in virtualization world, right? Even if you look at the cloud right now, cloud is, if you look at it, everything behind cloud is virtual computers or virtual servers. So there is some contribution from VMware, how it has developed the ecosystem, and of course AWS and Microsoft now and Google, all of them are actually using virtualization behind. So to bring virtualization to that space, VMware has some role to play, right? So talking about how I came to VMware was, before VMware, I have worked with IBM, and then I went to AWS, and then I went to a company called Cloud10, where I was working as a solutions architect, and then I saw a role popped up. And actually, one of my colleague, he referred me to this role. They said, "Hey, look, this solutions architect role is coming along," and the role was called VMware Cloud and AWS Solutions Architect. And because I had knowledge of AWS cloud, because I had worked with AWS, and also I had experience of virtualization and VMware's technologies when I was working with IBM. So it was like a really good match for me. And VMware was looking for someone who knows both sides of thing, right? So it was a good match for me. It was a good match for VMware, and then I applied for the role, and through the interview process, I got the role. So here I am today, and inside the VMware, there were multiple role changes, and my current role is multi-cloud architect, working for multiple VMware solutions in multiple clouds. That's what I'm doing right now. So that's the short answer of how was my journey with VMware.
So okay, so for before joining in VMware, and even being in Australia before, did you work here in Nepal, and did you work with other companies here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I worked in Nepal. I think it was like my early. My early career is it actually started in Nepal. We used to have a training, we used to call institute in Nepal. So we had an institute in Logankhel, Lalitpur, if you know that place.
No,
So
obviously.
we had that institute for like 3-4 years. That's when I learned a lot about technology. Back in those days, it was like Windows 95, Windows NT, DOS, and all those
Mhm.
sort of things. And we were training the office packages. We were training some programming and things like that. So yes, I had experience from Nepal, and after that institute, what happened was I actually went to an INGO called Population Services International Nepal as a system administrator. So my system admin
Hmm.
background actually started from there, and
Oh,
then
okay.
I moved on to Australia when I had to come here for my master's degree. I did my master's of IT in Australia, and from there on, because I had this experience on system admin, it wasn't that hard for me to get job here in Australia as well, right? So if you are confident on what you do, it's not that hard to get the job. And yes, I had experience prior to coming to Australia.
So, like prior working in Australia, like you worked in Nepal as well, like, and then you shifted to Australia, and then like started working in a bigger company. So, I just wanted to cover a little bit about like how is it like to work in a big companies. Like for us, being in Nepal, a big company is something like that. There are like thousands of employees all around the world, and but we have not got an opportunity to actually work there. But like, what is the subtle difference that you have figured out, like working in a bigger companies like VMware, Dell, and IBM?
So working for big companies like IBM, VMware, and AWS, because they have a really good system and also processes that are really aligned with how they do, right? So it's actually not that hard because you have to go through the orientation and trainings, and then once you are oriented, then you go into a certain team, right? And then again you have a structure there, support from the team that helps you to get equipped properly. So it's not that different as compared to, even like small companies may also have their own processes, their own way of onboarding, things like that, right? But bigger companies, because of their systems, it's yeah, interesting, and it's a little different.
Okay, so but you do enjoy the process, right?
Yeah, of course, yes.
Okay, all right. So after like working in like bigger companies, like after that topic, I would like to cover a little bit about your role itself. Like your role is something that's very unique. We have heard about the cloud solution architect. We have heard about cloud solution architect, but you work on multi-cloud and you're multi-cloud solution architect. So how different is that role like from being a normal solution architect in cloud or maybe even on-premise servers?
Yeah, so multi-cloud is basically it's a very new area. You won't see a lot of people who are doing this role, right? Because
Mhm.
to have your infrastructure or your systems or applications in multiple cloud is not that common today. So it's
Mhm.
still evolving area. So yes, it's an interesting area where I get to work with technologies from all clouds. So my primary cloud that I work on are AWS, of course, then GCP, Google Compute Platform. I also work on Azure VMware Solution or Azure platform, and other clouds from like things like OCVS, which is Oracle, and also Ali Cloud. So all these big, we call them hyperscalers. So I work with them. Like I said, it's an evolving role and a new space. But there are lots of things VMware are doing in that space.
Mhm.
Yeah, the role itself is really great. If you like to learn new things, if you like to learn new technologies, you have opportunity to learn all the clouds, right?
Mhm.
Normal people, or like in a normal IT job, people will work on either one or two clouds, but not all clouds. But with my role,
Okay.
I have opportunity to work on multiple clouds. All the big hyperscalers are all big cloud providers.
Yeah, that seems pretty interesting to me because I'm someone who started working on Microsoft Azure itself. I like worked there for like 5 years.
All right.
Then I did little bit of AWS, then did a little bit of GCP. But I'm still not like completely capable of working on multiple clouds at the same time. I'm capable of working at one cloud, that is Microsoft Azure, because I've spent so much time there. But this is something like that's completely interesting to me as well. But
Yeah.
like working at a VMware as for your role, like do you work for customers or like is it like you work for VMware as a company inside the companies itself?
Yes, so our my role, it entails both customers and partners, and also
Mm.
enabling my counterparts or my colleagues within VMware, right? So it is actually a role that touches so many aspects, from customers to partners to internal VMware employees. So yes, I do work with all these different stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then working in like multi-cloud, like I just want to a little bit cover a little bit about why a company or enterprise requires a multi-cloud, right?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
like what you have heard or learned as of now is once you go into cloud, it's everything handled by the cloud service provider. But why
Correct.
do I want to go with another provider? Like if I'm using AWS, why do I want to go with also Azure and like why
Hmm.
also
Hmm.
GCP, right? Like what's your thought on that?
So when we say multi-cloud in VMware, the VMware terminology, it doesn't mean that you have to work on all the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
Some company may be fine with just one cloud, right? For example, we have VMware Cloud on AWS. If they are working there and they are fine with their ecosystem, their IT infrastructure, etc., that's fine. They can just work there. When you say multi-cloud in VMware, it means that you can operate on any cloud. So VMware is in the process of becoming a de facto multi-cloud player, like we are now a de facto private cloud company, right? If you look at big enterprises and if they are using any virtualization stack on-prem, it would very highly likely be VMware, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we are de facto in private on-premises cloud. Multi-cloud is, like I said earlier, it's a new space, and VMware is in the process to become a de facto multi-cloud player. What that means is our cloud can be run on any cloud. It can be run on
Mm-hmm.
Azure, it can be run on GCP or AWS or OCVS, Oracle, right? Or even IBM
Yeah.
Cloud. So, what that means then is, let's say one XYZ company is using Azure and they want to run VMware workload on Azure. They would use a VMware's flavor of cloud called Azure VMware Solution.
Mm-hmm.
So what then happens is they will be running VMware Cloud there, and the workload that runs in there is compatible to workload that they're already running on-prem. And for some
All right.
reason, let's say if they want to migrate their workload from their on-prem completely and they want to go completely on Azure VMware Solutions, they can do that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there are many different use cases that VMware Cloud provides or VMware Cloud is good at. One is cloud migration. These days many companies they want to move away from their on-prem rather than maintaining their data centers and server and network and software storage, all of that. They want to actually give that heavy lifting, that responsibility to the cloud providers, right? So VMware Cloud can help there. So
Mm-hmm.
if we are talking about Azure Cloud in earlier example, what a company can do is they can completely migrate everything from on-prem and move it to Azure VMware Solution. And Microsoft, because it's a Microsoft's first-party solution, they can then support, they can then manage that infrastructure for the customer. So same thing
Mm-hmm.
with Google. If a company they want, they are aligned with Google and they already have lots of workloads running on Google, and they want to migrate everything from on-prem to Google, they can do that. And in Google, we call it Google Cloud VMware Engine. So in our cloud, they can run it, right? So we are capable of running this kind of workload on all clouds. That's why we call it multi-cloud. And
Mm-hmm.
if a customer wants, let's say after 5 years they were running on Azure VMware Solution and suddenly something happened and they wanted to move everything away from Azure to, for example, let's say VMware Cloud and AWS or AWS, then a customer has a choice to do that. And it can be done seamlessly. So that migration can be done, in a very short time from Azure VMware Solutions to VMware Cloud and AWS or vice versa, right? So that flexibility no other cloud provides. So if it's a VMware cloud, you can migrate your workloads between clouds as and when needed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but one thing that I'm kind of getting confused on, like VMware itself is a hypervisor, right?
VMware is a company that provides. It actually started as a hypervisor
Uh-huh.
or a virtualization company. We used to have a product called vSphere,
Mm-hmm.
and ESXi host is the
Yeah,
server
I've
that
heard about
ESXi host server.
it.
That is a compute, right? That's a compute virtualization.
Uh-huh.
Early days of virtualization. Then came your storage virtualization. We have a technology called vSAN. You can virtualize the storage, and now
Mm-hmm.
you can virtualize even your network, software defined network, SDN, right?
Yeah,
And we have
SDN,
a
yes.
we have a technology called NSXT that
Mm-hmm.
can virtualize network. So we as a VMware we can virtualize the whole stack, and we call it software defined data center, SDDC, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that SDDC, like in my earlier example, that can run on AWS, that can run on your Azure, or that can run on Google. And that gives the VMware cloud, right? So VMware is not just the virtualization company. If you look at the
Mm-hmm.
Gartner's report, VMware has so many products these days, right? We are pioneer
Yeah.
or leader in cloud management. If you have a cloud, for example, AWS, Google, Azure, and you have lots of workloads sitting in there, and you want to manage those workloads, you can manage it using our cloud management. We call it cloud management product. So if you look at the Gartner's Magic Quadrant, for 4 or 5 years we've been sitting there as a leader in Gartner's Magic Quadrant, right? So VMware
Yeah.
does so many things, not just virtualization.
Not just virtualization.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we need to get out of that misconception that VMware is just a virtualization
No.
thing, but like there are a lot of things that happen. So what I understand from this conversation is the solutions that the VMware provides, whether it's a software defined networking or maybe network soft storage virtualization system that can run on Microsoft's or maybe AWS or Google's
Correct.
own virtualization platform and like give the standard like
Standard
what do you call
platform.
it
Yeah.
standard platform for
Yeah.
like for across multiple clouds. So now
Correct.
this is something. Okay, that's more clearer now. So but I think I was also in that same misconception with like VMware is just an virtualization, but yeah, it's a company that has like multiple solutions
Exactly.
that can work on multi-cloud.
Like I said,
That's more clear.
yeah, like I said earlier, right? VMware is very innovative company. It continuously innovates, right? Like a startup. Like how startup innovates, VMware does, innovation that the same way. The Kubernetes and containers and microservices, these are the new things that are becoming very popular. And actually,
Yeah,
if
sure.
you look at the Kubernetes, contribution from a company, VMware comes right after Google. Google is the one who created Kubernetes, but in terms of
Yeah.
company contribution, Google is still number one. The second one is VMware. And what's happening in that space is now we are bringing all this Kubernetes engine in mass in enterprises. So we have a new product called Tanzu Kubernetes Grid or Tanzu Kubernetes Services. With that, our enterprises, our customers, they can actually run Kubernetes straight in VMware platform, right? So that's a new thing that's where VMware is heavily invested now. And for those companies who wants to modernize their application from a monolithic three-tier application to container-based applications, VMware has that platform as well. So we are innovating in that space too. So it's not just virtualization. VMware has lots of different products and solutions that our customers can use. And like I said, like 3 or 4 products that we have, or the categories we have in Gartner, we are sitting as a leader for multiple years.
Yeah, that's interesting to know. It's like you've covered a lot of uh, parts about the VMware products, but like how is it working as an individual or maybe as an employee at VMware? Like what is the working culture around there, and like what do you like the most as a company and as an employee working there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, so far, like I said, I have worked with many companies. My favorite so far has been VMware, right? So that's why I'm here for almost close to 3 years, and I'm not sure how long I'm gonna be here, but so far I'm liking it. Like I said, I like the culture, I like the people. We have something called every company has a culture. So we have something called EPIC 2, EPIC. 2 or Epic Square. So E stands for execution, P for passion, I for integrity, C for customer, and another C for community, right? When VMware says, hey, look, everyone, these are culture, everyone should be following this. Everyone should be, living and breathing Epic 2 culture, right? And I love it. My principles and my way of doing things, it perfectly matches with what VMware's culture is. So that's why I'm aligned with VMware, and VMware's culture is aligned with me, right? So that's very
Yeah,
important.
sure.
So when you are in a certain stage of your career, it's not just about money. It's just not about the name, and it's just about company and etc. The company culture, it becomes very, very important. Whether you want to work for the company or not, that company culture plays a really big role, right? For
Yeah,
me,
sure.
all of my colleagues, I can see the same values they live and breathe every day. And like if I have a problem, for example, let's say for one specific issue, I can go to anyone and ask help, and they will be super happy to help me, right? And I would do the same thing for any of my colleagues. So that you don't
That's right.
see in every day in all companies, right? So that kind of culture is very rare, and I'm happy to say that VMware is actually. Uh, uh, Using that company, or VMware is fostering that culture, that company culture all around the world. So it's very good. So I like the culture. Like I said, I like the colleague, the team, the managers are, they also demonstrate that epic to every day. It's good to see those values, being lived every day.
Yeah, thank you for the insight. Like, it obviously seems a very great company to work on, and all the best for the work that you've been doing here. I hope you stick around there
Yeah,
because
thank you.
you're liking the company culture and everything. But so on the same note, like we in Nepal itself, like if you talk about Nepal's context, like there is a very high growth of cloud developers. So
All right.
I'm talking about developers itself.
Mm-hmm.
So developers who can work on cloud based solutions, like they build applications, cloud native applications using cloud services like AWS, Azure, GCP, or even Alibaba is coming in, like Huawei is coming in. So like there is a lot of buzz going around in terms of cloud development. And 5 years back, it was even the name cloud was like very unknown to us, but like now it's a very common term, and every company is using it, and every company is working on it, which is a great shift that I see. But in terms of cloud architect, like we are still a bit slow. I believe I might be wrong, but I think the buzz is not still there. But I have heard so many queries related to how to become a cloud architect. Like if I'm someone who has some experience with software engineering and like even networking and like overall package of being a standard full stack developer, like how can I switch to be a cloud architect? I think you are the perfect guy to answer that. So just wanted to ask you, like, how can someone actually start their career in cloud architect?
Yeah, so architecting, when you say architecting, there are various branches of architecting, right? So my branch is more around infrastructure side of thing. So in many companies, it is termed as infrastructure architect. In some companies, they call it cloud architect. But cloud architects usually, again, depending on company, the title can be a little bit different. But to become an architect, what we really need is a well-rounded knowledge on everything, right? So from development life cycle, application development life cycle, to the inner workings of cloud, how cloud works, right, and the basic building blocks of clouds. Like if you look at the cloud, at the end of the day, it's some kind of server behind, right? So you need to have that foundational level of knowledge of how server works, how data center works, and when application is put on any infrastructure, how that app behaves, right? There is different ways of architecting these days. Even software architects, right? They have different ways of architecting software. We just spoke about microservices, and we just spoke about converting monolith to refactoring it from monolith to containers or microservices, right? So there's a different pattern of software that happens. So you need to know overall picture of how the world is evolving, where the world is going, and you need to know how, for example, how does that app run on any infrastructure. So for an architect, you need to know the underlying network. Like cloud is built on top of network, so you need to have a really good grasp of network, how network works, how different things hang together, right? And at the same time, you need to know about how to make your app highly available, highly performant, highly resilient, really highly secure, right? All of these things. So all of these things come into play. So to be an architect, you need to have a well-rounded knowledge on all this area. But the first thing is you need to be good at least one thing. Really good at one thing, right? Whether it is software, whether it is networking, whether it is storage, whatever it is, you need to be really good at one thing, and then you can then continue learning on top of that, right? So you need to have foundational knowledge, and then at the same time you need to know how the whole thing works, whole thing hangs together. So usually what architects do is basically look at the thing, look at the problem, and then in a given situation, what is the outcome a customer is looking for? You provide that outcome with your architecture, right? So all of these things come into play. So if you are a software developer, if you want to be architect, you could be a software architect. That means you need to know the foundation of software, and then how the software is built, and how you package the software, what is the life cycling of software, right? That sort of thing. So, like I said, there are different, the branches of architecting. Mine is more about infrastructure, and now it is not just one cloud; it's multiple cloud, right? Cloud is the infrastructure now. So for me, it's multi-cloud and multiple cloud infrastructures.
So as the words that you said, like I completely agree on that, and like that resonates to me as well, because we in our company we also do a cloud developer apprentice program where we teach multiple students on becoming a cloud developer. But every time every time we have a orientation call, the first thing that I say is at least know how to create a load balancer first, right?
Exactly.
We don't even start like working on cloud until first month. For the first month, he was just working on creating hypervisors, load balancers, and then like creating proxies, and like working on creating a local cluster of Kubernetes, because those are the things that are actually going to help you understand the basic knowledge of what cloud is, because at the end cloud is someone else's computer, right? You at least need to understand the underlying concept. So if I think from my side, what I believe, if you're trying to be a cloud architect, as you said, yes, we'll have to be good at something first, and then like we can take that knowledge to next level, and then like we can become a cloud architect. I think that's something. But I'm also in the same path, so I'm also trying to certify into multiple cloud service providers and like become a cloud architect. But that's my personal journey. So yeah, I think I completely agree on the terms that you said. But like being a cloud architect, like how do you see in terms of career and personal growth in the current paradigm for like the implementation of cloud and lifting and shifting on-premise servers to cloud? Like how do you see in terms of career, like maybe in Nepal or maybe outside as well?
There's a massive growth opportunity I can see, right? Whatever field it is in IT is, I'm like the demand of the IT proficient employees or IT proficient people is everywhere now, right? Because everything is getting digitalized, everything is getting transformed in some shape or form. But yeah, cloud is now at the center, because cloud is the new infrastructure. Cloud is the new data center. That's how it is, right? So if you have a good knowledge building application on cloud, whether it's an application developer or a system admin who works on cloud, we call them now cloud engineers, right? Or an architect who builds systems on top of it, right? So no matter what skill it is, if it is IT related, it's highly in demand, and specifically the cloud architects is really in high demand, because you see lots of on-prem, like I said earlier, lots of on-premises environments are getting migrated to cloud as we speak, especially in developed countries, right? They already have really matured ecosystem in private cloud. Now they want to optimize it, and they don't want to do data center business anymore. A bank, they just want to operate bank. They don't want to operate data center for a bank, right? An insurance company, what they want is they don't want to spend a lot of time maintaining and managing their infrastructure. They want to hand it off to cloud providers, and they just want to run their application that is good for their customer, right? They want to serve their customer, not do your daily chores of managing and maintaining your data centers and your infrastructure, right? So you can see the shift that is happening right now from on-prem moving to the cloud. So if you are good with all these technologies and you're already in there, your career could go as long as you want, and it's not going to stop tomorrow, right? Even if it's cloud today, maybe there will be something else tomorrow. Of course, you will have to continually evolve. Cloud architect may become something else architect, but as you continually evolve, as you continually skill yourself, as you continually train, your career will be growing together. With whatever technologies comes. 5 years ago, who knew that Kubernetes will be this big, right? Now you may say Kubernetes architect. Maybe that title may be already there, right? Something like that. So that will happen. But you need to continually evolve as well as the technology evolves. If you do that, your job will always be secure. If you love architecting and you want to keep doing architecting, it is safe. If you want to do something else, beyond architecting, again, it's up to you how you want to, go through your career, right? But yes, career is there. Yeah. Absolutely.
So probably, I think we started from ground level data centers. We moved to cloud. Now next step would be space. Probably, so space architect would be.
It could be, right?
So that could be one thing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So being a space architect.
Maybe in 100 years time. Yeah.
Probably. So like just something popped in my head, like working in cloud environments and like being a cloud developer myself. I've made tons of mistakes. There were some disastrous situations that I've done, and like I've learned from it, and like that has helped me to grow as well as a tech guy. And but like, did you had any like a funny or maybe shareable incident like that you can share that happened during your career time, maybe working here or maybe working in other companies? Like,
So that kind of mishap, right? Like a big accident. I didn't have that kind of, like a really uh, a mishap that actually took down the whole thing, or like whole site or something like that. I didn't have anything like that. And again, thanks to the processes and systems and change management and all that these big companies they have in place, right? Especially this kind of mishaps will be avoided if you have a proper ITIL processes. These big companies have ITIL process. So luckily I haven't had that kind of mishaps. But I remember one incident when I was like still like a system admin and working for one company, software company here in Australia. I used to be like an all-rounder. I used to do everything from networks to storage to servers to virtualization to everything, right? And then once I had to upgrade one certain physical box, and then I think at the time, because I didn't know the role of that box, I was still new in the company. It was actually, I don't know if we still have that kind of system these days. It was a PABX system. It was a really old phone system. I don't know if we still have that.
we
Today,
still have that.
lots of things are in contact centers. Even cloud.
Yeah.
Cloud has those kind of
Yeah.
things now, right? So back in those, I think that was like 12, 13 years ago. And then I was actually upgrading systems, and I think that was a Samsung box or something. And then I didn't realize, when you upgrade that system, you will have to follow certain processes. And because I didn't follow that PABX was down for 2-3 hours, right?
Okay.
So that's the one thing that I have actually. That's sort of like accident or mishap, that because I didn't follow the processes and the runbook that was there, that happened. But again, quickly when I had a support call with Samsung, then they said, okay, did you do this? Did you do that? And then they asked me to roll back few things, and things it started working again. But yeah, not like a really massive proportion kind of thing, but yeah, that was a small mishap.
Yeah, so PABX, just for we still use that. Like there are multiple companies that they use it.
Right.
And because I haven't worked in few like Asterisk.
Asterisk, yeah, I know that.
Asterisk
I know that
servers.
system.
Yeah, so but yeah, we're still in PABX system, but there are some shift going forward, like on to going into cloud-based contact
Yes.
center. But in terms of Nepal, like I'm not the perfect guy to answer this, but like the cloud telephone numbers are still not available.
All right.
So
Right.
that's why like we cannot move to cloud as of now. But there might be some solution, but I'm not an expert, so just a disclaimer out of that.
Got
So but you talked about like following processes like to make sure that mishap doesn't happen. But like, how can a company actually ensure that the processes is created, and like how to create that process or maybe documentation or guideline so that these kind of mishap doesn't happen, or maybe production doesn't go down, or maybe the bill doesn't come 10 times next month or something like that. So like how can a company do that?
Yeah.
Because this is something I see a lot of companies struggling, but maybe that you can shed some light on that.
So usually big companies, they have processes and procedures in place, and if they are following the ITIL guidelines, right, ITIL, they would have that things like incident management, problem management, change management, and all these things, and they adhere to it very strictly, right? So let's talk about IBM. They used to have incident management procedures. When there is an incident, there's a ticketing system. I'm sure you guys would also have something like that, right? So the ticketing system, they used to have a ticketing system at the time called Remedy. Now, many of the systems are being replaced by ServiceNow. ServiceNow has become like a de-facto now for this kind of ITIL management sort of thing, right? Do you know about ServiceNow? They call it Snow as well
No.
sometimes. So
This is
ServiceNow,
something new.
it's a new enterprise grade ITIL management, I would say. It has replaced many of this kind of ticketing systems or these ITIL management platforms. So in IBM they used to have something called Remedy, and that platform BMC, I think that was provided by a company called BMC, and using Remedy you could do incident management. If there is an incident, then you would log a ticket, and then you would fix it, right? And then you say, hey, this was the root cause, this is what happened, this is how I fixed it. So And if you have that kind of incident repeating multiple times, and it becomes like a trend, then they call it problem. Then it becomes problem management. So they will then okay, hey man, this incident has happened 5, 6, 7, 8 times. This is not just an incident, it's a problem. So they will manage it as a problem. They find the root cause, they fix the whole thing, and then the incident doesn't happen again, right? That is the whole idea. So in ITIL, there is another thing called change management. There is service catalog. There's so many things. So change management is when my earlier example, instead of me just going there and doing things on PABX, what would happen in in a really well organized place would be a change management. They would have they call it change management advisory board, a CAB board. Again, the name can vary from company to company. So the change management board, let's say I want to do something in my system, I would raise a change and say, hey, CAB board, this is what I'm going to do on this day. Do you approve or not, right? If it impacts a production system, they would have to go to that board, and they would like 6, 7 people, even security guys, network guys, storage guys, all will be involved and see what is the implication. Is it going to impact my system? Is it going to do all of? They will do all that diligence, and once everyone says, okay, we are fine. Do you have any risk? If you have a risk, how are you going to roll back? So you have to write everything, right? Not just implementing it, but if something happens, I'm going to roll back this way. You have to write the whole thing. So because of this kind of processes, even if something really bad happens, they can quickly roll back. So there is no like a big production outage. But the interesting thing is this was used to be all manual. Now, because of CI/CD and DevOps and all of these things, many of these things have been is getting automated, right? All of this ITIL process can now be automated because of the automation, the way that the world has evolved, right? But ITIL process is still there, but many of these are automated and they are really quick.
So every time I talk to my team and I say, like, before making a deployment plan, make a rollback plan first, so that like if something goes south, like, then you must be prepared for a rollback.
Absolutely.
But if you're not prepared for rollback, you are not prepared for deployment. So
absolutely,
I follow that guideline. So it has worked as of now.
So you are following a really good procedure then.
yeah. But we're just working on making sure we follow. We also do mistakes. That happens a lot of times. But what is the tool that you actually suggested for change management? Because that is something that we and many companies can implement and start working on that.
So these days I don't really work with all this kind of infrastructure, like that sort of thing. Like I said, I named few, right? Remedy used to be one. I think they're still there in enterprises. They still use Remedy. We used to use, like, in a small software company that was like back in 10-15 years ago. We used to use open source software. Bugzilla. Bugzilla is there also.
Yeah.
Bugzilla can do that sort of thing as well, right? But if it's a big enterprises and if you want to do SaaS, ServiceNow is another one. ServiceNow is the most popular one at the moment. ServiceNow can do everything. You can do automation, you can do incident management, everything. Like I said earlier, it's really based on ITIL, and you can do a lot of things with ServiceNow.
But for change management, there is something that I've actually tried. Instead of using any third-party tool, we start with the infrastructure as a code first.
Right.
So maybe write the entire infrastructure in Terraform, right? You can push that code into Git repository, right? Now, every time you want to make a change, don't make change directly from the CLI or maybe from the portal itself. Just go and change that in the Terraform file.
Exactly.
Send a PR, then you can get approval for that.
Yes.
Right? But for that to happen, you'll have to start from infrastructure as a code from the very beginning. Yep. But this is something that I've actually experimented with, and it has worked. But it is a bit hard to continue because sometimes we'll have to make changes on the fly. But yeah, that is something that I'm experimenting right now, and I think I'll say something about that if that goes well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the new world, right? Everything is now in code, and like I said earlier, even your ITIL management and all of these things can now be part of your how you deploy, like CI/CD. The whole thing could be part of your CI/CD, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So it is a new area. It is a new area, but many things can be automated and things are getting easier.
Yeah, but things are getting easier and like roles are getting difficult. So
Yeah.
we'll have to, we'll have to handle.
Yeah, you need to know everything
Uh,
now. You can't say I
yeah,
only know network. It's not enough. Yeah, you need
yeah,
to know
it's
everything,
not
right?
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to go from scratch from ground to space. So that's how
Yeah,
it is
that's it.
now right now.
That's how it is.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Satya. It was really nice talking to you. I think we'll have to wrap up this podcast because I don't want to take a lot of your time. And thank you very much for joining us in this podcast. Like, do you have any last words that you want to tell the audience related to your journey, or maybe like how anyone can work on cloud architect and like start, and like how they can reach out to you if they have any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once again, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you and your audiences. One thing I want to say to anyone is, look, being a Nepalese, uh, you can achieve what you want, right? You need to have a right platform. You need to have a right mentor. You need to have a right circle, right? Then you can achieve what you want. If you are in Nepal or if you are living anywhere in the world, and you have a desire to succeed, you need to work on it. If you work on it, you'll get there, right? And again,
Yeah.
if you need help, do not hesitate. I mean, there are so many good people out there who is willing to help. Just reach out to them, and then say, hey, I'm trying to do this. Can you please help me? Simple words like that, can actually play a big part in your career. So don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate to network. Networking is very important. Network with people and continue learning. The thing is hard work. You have to put some effort, otherwise you can't go anywhere, right? Just talking is not enough. You have to put hard
Yeah.
work with the right mindset, get a good circle, and if you need help with people, go and ask help. And yeah, if you need like any guidance, any suggestions regarding careers and things like that, you all are welcome to contact me. I'll do my best to guide you or help you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Satya. So I think we'll have to wrap up here. And thank you very much once again for your time. I hope you have a great time. So to the audience who have been watching till this end, thank you very much for tuning in this podcast. We'll be coming back with a new guest next week. Until then, have a great time. Bye bye.